Agents Podcast.
Well, look who's back for another round. We didn't get enough of the former Miami Dolphins linebacker Steve Shull on episode 265. So if you did not listen to that episode, I suggest you stop what you're doing. You go listen to that one, and then this one will just continue on from where we left off in the last one, which we will recap for just a few moments where we left off. Steve, you talked again about your background, about how you got into real estate, how you got into coaching, and all of the things that you do that make you different, that make you stand out. And we ended that episode really talking and diving into those conversations about how you go about those listing appointments and how you're not going to someone's house and how you're not afraid to be told that they don't want to work with you. So maybe take us back there and then let's lead us into some of the conversations that we wanted to have, which are commission in this post-NAR world, post-NAR decision world. So take it away, and then let's start jamming.
All right. I appreciate you having me back for round two. So what we were getting into at the end of the first session, again, my coaching clients do not go out to the house to make a presentation about, price, home preparation, what they're going to do, marketing in an effort to convince a potential seller to do business with them. Instead, we talked about this concept that I got with Chris Voss called the favorite or the fool, meaning when you get a phone call, the phone call every agent wants, which is, hi, we're thinking about selling our home. We'd like you to come out and talk to us. Most agents, that triggers a chain of events. I'm going to prepare for that appointment. That might take a couple hours or more. I'm going to drive out to the house. I'm going to take a tour of the home, and then I'm going to, pull out my listing presentation. If I have a formal presentation, or I'll have an informal conversation. And again, basically talking about price, home preparation, marketing, why they should list their home with me. And that whole, appointment's going to take roughly 2 hours, give or take. And then we're going to spend another 24, 48, 72 hours on pins and needles waiting to find out. And what we talked about last time, we do all that in a 15-minute Zoom call. We call that a new client discovery call. And again, the framework is, tell me a little bit more about what's going on. Then we're going to tease out what their fantasy price is. We're going to find out what the nightmare scenario is in terms of what they're thinking and what they'd be willing to do to avoid that nightmare. And then I'm going to say, now that we know the fantasy, if you won the lottery, what would that look like? And we know what the nightmare is, what you want to avoid at all costs. I'm curious, what are you actually hoping for? And now we're going to get a sense of reality. This framework breaks down into three parts. Is there a deal here? Is there a deal here with me? And then do I want this deal? And so the first part, we're trying to figure out, are they realistic or not? Assuming they are, now I want to find out, is there a deal here with me? First, we're going to get into whether they even want to work with an agent or not. I'm going to say something like, would it be crazy to think, or would it be wrong to assume that if you could sell your home without working with a real estate professional, that would be your preference? Now, we call that a mislabel because we know most people are going to say, no, I want to work with an agent. And I want them saying, no, I want to work with an agent. That's good information. It's also great information if they say to you, yeah, if we could get away with not doing this, with not having to work with an agent, that's valuable information. That gives you some insight. They're probably wanting to save money on the commission. And then from there, I'm going to go, again, I'm curious, of all the real estate agents you could have reached out to, why me? We call this proof of life. And again, this comes from the hostage negotiating world, where a hostage negotiator wants to know the hostage is alive. In real estate, I want to know why they want to work with me. Do they have a reason for why they want to work with me? And why me? There's only two things they can do: give a robust response where they give you all the reasons why they want to work with you, or give you a random response. Oh, we saw your sign, or we got a piece of mail, or we were throwing darts at a dartboard and your name came up. So I'm listening to what is their perception of my value. And if I think I'm the favorite, then I'm going to say, at the risk of not wanting to be presumptuous, would it be wrong to assume you would like to work together? And if they want to work with you, they're going to say, absolutely, we want to work together. Or, at the risk of putting you on the spot, it sounds like you might be leaning in the direction of working with another agent. That's really going to make them squirm when you're actually the fool in the game. Because when you're the fool in the game, they want you there for one reason. They want free information. They're doing their due diligence. They want to find out what you know. And so they don't want to tell you they're working with someone else because they haven't asked you all the questions they want. So they're definitely going to squirm. They're going to say something like, oh, we're still interviewing. We're still thinking about it. We're still processing. So we're listening. We're listening this whole time, whether we're the favorite or the fool. And if we think they're the favorite, then the third part of the equation, do I want this deal? And then that's where we're going to bring up commission. There's a couple things that might be potential sticking points. Would you mind if I put them out on the table? No, please do. One is my commission. Very expensive. And that's exactly how you're going to say it. Very expensive.
I think you're going to make some real estate agents squirm just by saying
big time, big time, big time. And you do that because they're going to go to 10%. When you say very expensive, they're going to go to a high number in their head. And so when you say that your fee, my fee on the listing side is 3 or 3.5%. Most of my agents are getting 3.5% on the listing side. 3.5% doesn't sound like a lot compared to the number they just went to in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the kicker, everyone. This is what we did not get into last time around. This is what this book, The Full Fee Agent, is all about. Again, one of my big passions as a real estate coach is getting agents paid their full fee. I know how hard you work. I know how hard this job is. Nobody appreciates what you do. No one understands what you do. They all think you're making way too much money. They all think you're overpaid. They all think your job is easy. And they're all reaching in your pocket as if they're entitled to your money. So when you're the favorite, this is what you want to hear. When you're the favorite, they will pay you what your fee is. They will pay you what your fee is, no matter what it is. Now, they may push back once, or they may push back twice. However, they're just fishing. They're just making sure they're not leaving any money on the table. So if they say to you, wow, that seems a little high, or that seems more than what, I thought it was going to be, or that's more than what other agents said, you simply say 3.5% is my standard. That's the fee I charge everyone. 3.5% is my standard. That's the fee I charge everyone. And when you're the favorite, 9.9 times out of 10, that's all you need to say. Because you just gave them a reason why they're going to pay you. Because that's your fee and that's what you charge everyone. And again, they were just fishing. Now, if they say, yeah, it's, there's no flexibility, then you simply say, it sounds like my fee might be a deal breaker for you. It sounds like my fee might be a deal breaker for you. And again, if you're the favorite, that's all you need to do. They're going to say, no, I just wanted to make sure. And then you're going to move forward. So here's what I want you to understand, all of you. Your fee is not based on your value proposition. That's what you've been programmed to believe. That's what you've been conditioned to believe. That's what you're thinking sellers are making a decision on. No, it's about trust, not value. Do they trust you? And if they trust you, trust is worth way more than any promise you make to them about what you're going to do to get your home sold. And again, this is where agents don't get it, because every force imaginable in real estate is conspiring to turn you, the agent, into a commodity. Everything points in that direction. It is an absolute race to the bottom. And you're free to join that race. Or you can get on a different path. And that path is building a repeat and referral business driven by human relationship, fueled by connection, and based in trust. And so it's a very different way of interacting with the client. And in this post-NAR decision world, the rules of the game have changed dramatically. And this is not, this is just not nonsense. This really is an opportunity for all of you to get paid more. Mm-hmm. Most agents see it as an opportunity for a pay cut. No, it's an opportunity for a pay raise. On the listing side, they're used to hearing what? 5 and 6%. Now I can say 3.5. 3.5 sounds a lot less than what? 5 or 6. And I'll get into this in a minute. And so basically, my fee in representing you on the listing side is 3.5%. And what we're doing mentally in that moment is we're taking our fee and moving it to the side. When it comes to paying the agent representing the buyer, you have options. Okay? You can pay a full fee, which in this market is 2.5%. You can pay a partial fee. Again, in this market, anything less than 2.5%. Or you can pay no fee at all. Those are your choices. So again, we've moved our fee to the side. Our fee's off the table. If they want to negotiate anything, it's going to be the fee on the buyer side. And what you have to recognize is there are going to be certain sellers, they don't want to pay any fee at all. They've read something, they've heard something, they've already made their mind up. They're not paying. My job is not to convince them that's a bad move. That's not my job. Then you're going to have the group of sellers who want to pay a full fee because in their mind, that's what makes sense. They want their home sold and they don't want to put themselves at any competitive disadvantage at all. And then you're going to have the middle group who's saying, well, if I don't have to pay, I think I should pay something. However, if I don't have to pay 2.5, I'd rather not. Am I really going to hurt myself by offering 2 or something less than 2? And again, there's not enough data right now for any agent to make any claim. And what you would say to that seller, these are the things you need to think about. You need to consider if you offer anything less than 2.5, in the minds of a buyer, does that put you at any type of disadvantage? Only you can determine whether you think that's a risk worth taking or not. So far, we don't have enough data to say one way or another whether that's going to impact you. And this is a big part of what we teach, putting responsibility where it belongs. That decision belongs to the seller. They have to decide what they're going to pay. They have to decide whether they want to offer a full fee, whatever that is in your market, a partial fee, or no fee at all. Your job is to lay out the landscape. Now, if they ask you what you think, okay, the first thing you would say is, it sounds like you want my guidance. It sounds like you want my input on what to pay the other agent, or should I pay the other agent? If you don't think it's a horrible idea, now again, notice I keep phrasing these questions in a certain way. We call that no-oriented questions. And the reason why we phrase it in this way, we want to get a no response that serves us. And the reason why we want to do that is people love to say no. Just think, you go into a clothing store, you're going to buy a new outfit or a new suit or a new shirt or whatever, shoes. The salesperson comes up to you, first words out of their mouth, can I help you? What do you always say? No, I'm just looking. You're there to buy something.
Yeah.
That no is a reflex. As human beings, we love to say no because saying no makes us feel safe and protected. So we want to use the fact that people love to say no. And that's why we ask our questions with a no orientation. So I'm going to say, sounds like you want my guidance. Sounds like you want my input on whether you should offer a commission or not. And if so, how much? However, before I do that, would it be a horrible idea for you to share with me what you're thinking? Now, again, if you're the favorite, they're going to share. They're not going to withhold information. They're not going to play this ticky-tack game of, oh, you tell me first. You go first. As a real estate agent, you've been through this your whole career. They don't want to give you the price. They want you to give the price first. You don't need to play that game anymore. You don't need to play that game. You always let them know that you're going to give your input. However, if it's not a horrible idea, what are you thinking? And if they still want to withhold information, that's a very good sign that I'm the fool in the game and I'm only there to give them free information. So they're going to let me know what they're leaning towards. And if they're leaning towards no commission, then I'm going to let them pay no commission. However, I'm going to let them know, if you're offering no commission, you can expect, if a buyer is interested in your property and they write an offer, the buyer, through their agent, is going to be asking you to pay their agent. So the offer will include you paying the agent. You can expect that. Now, you don't have to accept that. You can accept, you can reject, or you can negotiate. And so if they want to offer 0, I'm not going to fight that. If they're committed, I'm not going to fight that. If they're going back and forth between a full fee and a partial fee, first I'm going to find out what they're thinking. And then I'm going to share my opinion. However, it's my opinion. And there's a difference between giving an opinion and telling someone what to do. In the way we coach and what we teach, we're never telling people what to do. We don't tell people what to think. Instead, we make them think. I'm always going to make them think. So in my opinion, offering a full fee or offering a partial fee, whatever your opinion is, and what you say is, if it were me and I was in this situation, this is what I would do. However, it's not me. It's you. And this decision is 100% yours. And when you do that, you're actually empowering them to make a decision. And so again, we go at this in a very, very different way. There's no explaining. One of Chris Voss's favorite sayings: when you're explaining, you're losing. When you're explaining, you're losing. And that's what real estate agents are doing all the time. They're explaining. Just think, how often do you want someone twisting your arm and trying to convince you what you should think or do?
Yeah. That's happened a lot over the last few months leading into last Tuesday, actually.
Right. True.
Now, I want to ask you a couple questions. First of all, staying on this vein, I think there's probably a lot of agents that were probably thinking that you were going to assign a fool label to an agent who accepts a seller saying, I don't want to pay anything. I want to pay zero. But what you're saying is, I think what I interpreted was that I'm going to let the chips fall where they may, because when an offer comes in, that emotion of getting this thing sold might change their mind.
100%. If they have it in their head, they want to offer zero, guess what? It's not my job to convince them not to do that. Yeah. It is my job to let them know, though, that the offer is probably going to include them paying the buyer's agent commission. Yeah. However, they will have choices. And like you said, it's one thing to say, I don't want to offer anything. It's another thing to get an offer, and in the emotion of that moment, then you're really going to find out what they're going to do. Yeah. So I don't need to fight that battle up front, because I don't even know if it's going to be a battle yet.
Yeah. And odds are, if you do quote unquote fight the battle, AKA try to convince them, you're probably going to talk yourself right out of becoming the listing agent.
No, it's not only that, you're no longer their advocate. Remember, even when you don't agree with the seller or the buyer, it's your fiduciary responsibility to be their advocate. And the moment they don't feel you're advocating for them, why would they work with you? And again, this is trust-based. It's not value-based. And that doesn't mean I roll over. That doesn't mean I just do anything. I'm just saying there's a difference between advocating and convincing, and you need to be on the side of advocating for people.
Yeah. I do think that there is probably an agent out there that's thinking to themselves, when you talk about fiduciary responsibility, I look at my fiduciary responsibility to sell your house. And if you're telling me you're not willing to pay a commission, you're not giving me the best opportunity to sell your house. So for that reason, I'm out. We're going to the
right. And at the risk of pissing a few people off, I call that playing God. When, again, there's not a single agent out there, not one, who does any business, who hasn't found them in a situation where they were dead wrong about the price. They said it would never sell for that, and it ends up selling well over. Or they thought it would sell for a really high price and, didn't sell at all. We just don't know. No one has the ability to predict the future. Yeah. And I just want to go back to what you said earlier. In the moment, when there's an offer on the table, we don't really know how someone's going to respond. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to cut myself off.
Yeah. 100%. That's wise. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. I'm just trying to throw things out there that somebody might be thinking so you can respond to it.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Now,
Because
I want to digress for a second before we
Okay.
get into to more about the commission speak and go back to the whole concept of being the favorite, which I don't think we spent a lot of time with on this question, if at all, on the last episode, which is, all right, how do I become the favorite?
that's the question everyone answers. And there's no answer to that question other than staying in touch with people over the long term, being top of mind, always putting there's two ways. Let me back up. There's two answers to that question. There's the long-term answer by getting people in my CRM, getting them set up on the right cadence, and then staying in touch with them and always putting their interests first and being of value so that when they're ready, they call me up because we've been in relationship. So that's one way that you become the favorite. A second way that you become the favorite is as human beings, every human being has personal preferences. Every human being has a past. So even if I'm a seller and I'm interviewing 5 complete strangers, I don't know a real estate agent, and I've picked 5 random people, one of those 5 is going to be the favorite because of my personal preferences going in. Just the way we are as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like blue, some people like red, some people like chocolate, some like vanilla. So we all have personal preferences. And again, this is something agents don't understand. The playing field is never level. When you go on a listing appointment, and most agents think, oh, I want to go on the appointment. I want to go on the appointment. Because if I can get in the living room, I can dazzle them with my amazing personality and my brilliant presentation and my incredible track record and all my testimonials. No, it doesn't work that way. Let me take a step back. It works that way 20% or less of the time. When you're the favorite, what that means is your odds of getting the business are 80% or greater. When you're the fool in the game, your odds are 20% or less. So what I'm describing to you, there's no guarantee. When you're the favorite, it doesn't guarantee you're going to get the business. It just means your odds are up there.
Sure.
When you're the fool in the game, it doesn't mean your chances are 0. It means they're 20% or less. Again, Chris Voss loves to say, we live in a Las Vegas world. We live in a world of probabilities. And what we want to do as a real estate agent, what we want to do is focus on high probabilities. And so this always comes up, and I will get back to your question. Well, even if there's a 20% chance, I want that. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you have to go on 10 appointments to get 2, 1, or 0, then you're never going to have time to deal with the people where you would have been the favorite. Because you're too busy messing around with all these people where you really don't have a chance. So one of the things that people really resist in what I teach is even though there's a 20% chance or less, we're foregoing that opportunity. We're walking away. Not all business is equal. There's good business and there's bad business. When I'm the fool in the game, and somehow I turn them, I convince them to work with me, I set up the relationship in the wrong way because now they're not working with the person they thought they were going to work with. And the first time something goes wrong, they're going to start doing what? Second guessing their decision. Oh, I should have went with the other agent. And now they're going to be all over you. Now they're going to ride you. Now they're going to micromanage you. So I don't want to convince someone to work with me. I want to work with the people who want to work with me. So being the favorite Long-term strategy, staying in touch with people. And then the short-term strategy is connecting with them on this level through tactical empathy, through making them feel understood, because no one else out there is making them feel understood. No one else out there is talking to them and saying, you know, in selling your home, what would it feel like to win the lottery? What would that feel like? What's the fantasy? No one's saying that to them because no one wants them. No one wants to hear what they really want.
Yeah.
Like if you ask me what my fantasy is, if I could sell my home, it would be twice what it's actually worth.
Yeah.
All right. And then no one's going to the flip side. No one's saying, what would be the nightmare?
Yeah.
What would be the scenario that might cause you to rethink this decision? What do you think you need to do to avoid ending up in this decision? And again, here's another thing that people don't understand. The fear of loss is a bigger motivator of human behavior than the prospect of gain. Every agent is always out there pitching prospective gain. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. The real motivator in life is fear of loss, avoiding what you don't want. That's a bigger motivator. That's why the nightmare scenario, we want to anchor them to that nightmare scenario. We want to find out what they're willing to do to avoid that, because that's a bigger motivator.
Yeah. So let me ask my question a different way.
Okay.
Where have you found the most success in becoming the favorite? What has
Again,
worked best for you?
You don't become the favorite. You are the favorite.
Okay.
And so it's in how you relate to another human being. Tactical empathy is the art of influencing people by articulating what they're thinking and feeling. It's the act of making someone feel understood. When you make someone feel understood, you're going to foster trust in that relationship. And being the favorite is all about trust. When someone trusts you, that's what makes you the favorite.
How are you fostering trust to a lead that you may not know exists?
By not trying to impose my will on them, by finding out what are they really thinking and feeling? What are they hoping for? How do they see this process unfolding? Again, in the way I interact with them, I empty my bucket. I have no agenda. I am not attached to the outcome. My sole focus is on what they want. That is a different dynamic. That's a completely different energy than what agents are doing every day. They're sitting in people's living room trying to talk them into working with them, or they're on the phone and it's a Zillow lead and they want to run out and see property. Look, Zillow leads, here's the classic, cold call situation. You can even turn that around. If you get a Zillow lead, what does Zillow want you to do? They want you to make sure that you show that property. Using tactical empathy, if someone is calling me, a cold call, and they want to go see a property, I'm going to say, yes, we can absolutely do that. Yes, we can absolutely do that. However, if you're not opposed, before we go see that property, or we can do it now if you have time, can we have a quick talk about what it is you're trying to accomplish? Now, any buyer who won't give you 15 minutes, they just want to see the property, you're the fool in the game. You're going to run out there. You're going to, that's all hope-based. My coaching, we're trying to extract all hope out of the equation. Hope is essential in life. However, hope is inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping someone's going to do something, that's not a strategy we teach.
Yep. Yep. Now let me rewind it even further. So a lot
Okay.
of what we've talked about are assuming someone contacted you to even give you a chance. So once they
Right.
get to that point, do you have anything within your coaching or that you advise based upon your experience or experience of the agents that you've worked with to get that phone to ring more often, effectively attracting more opportunities to get to the point where they get to have these conversations?
Again, people are going to hate my answer.
That's okay.
All you can do to make the phone ring more is one, talk to more people on a daily basis, and B, stay in touch with more people on a regular basis. That's it.
Yep.
Basic math.
And if correct me if I'm wrong, your description or your strategy around staying in touch is not very time consuming. It's like once every 90 days, right?
Once every 90 days, and it's a checking call. It's not a real estate call. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to hustle them to find out, are they buying or selling, or do they know of anyone who's buying or selling? I'm just checking in human being to human being. Hey, if they want to talk real estate, they will bring it up with me. I'm a real estate agent. I don't need to prompt them.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Okay, let's circle back to this whole, is there anything that we left on the table that we need to discuss as it regards to getting full fee, which I
Yeah, we need to
think
talk about, if you have time, we need to talk about the buyer side
go for it.
because that's the real issue. And and this is where what I'm coaching again is very different. What we're going to say to a buyer, we're going to take them through the same framework. I want to find out, am I the favorite or the fool? What would be the fantasy scenario in buying a home? What would be the nightmare scenario? What are you really hoping for? Would it be wrong to think you really don't want to work with an agent? Why me? And if we get to the point where, okay, they say they want to work, okay, there's a couple things that we need to bring up that might be potential sticking points. What's that? One is my fee. My fee to represent you as a buyer is 3%. Stop. Okay. That seems really high. Again, 3% is my standard. That's the fee I charge everyone. Well, I thought the seller paid the fee. Okay. In the past, that's absolutely been the case. However, since last August, things have changed. If you don't mind, what have you heard or what have you read, if this is appropriate, about the National Association of Realtors, lawsuit, settlement, commissions? I always want to find out what they know first. I always want them talking first. And if they don't want to talk first, that's a good sign that I'm the fool in the game. They're going to tell me what they know. And I'm going to say, again, if you don't think it's a horrible idea, could I share with you the realities of today's real estate market? Okay. And they're going to go, of course, please do. As a buyer, ultimately, you are responsible for paying my fee. Again, this is where what we're coaching is different. We are not sidestepping this. We're not trying to make it seem like the buyer's not going to have to pay. We're going the exact opposite. We're going to say, ultimately, you're responsible for paying my fee. Now, there may be an offset. Sellers may be offering to pay my full fee or part of my fee. If they're offering to pay the full fee, then you wouldn't have that cost. If they're only paying a partial fee, then you would be responsible for the difference. If I'm charging 3, they're only offering 2.5, you would be responsible for the extra 0.5%. The other option we have is we can include my fee in any offer that you make. However, be aware the seller can accept that, or the seller can reject that, or the seller can counter that. So again, ultimately, know that you're responsible. If the seller pays all of it, great, or part of it, then you're only responsible for the difference. If they're not offering anything, you would be responsible for my full fee. So we're going head on. We're not trying to escape that. And then the second part, and the other potential sticking point, is as a buyer now, you have to sign what's called an exclusive buyer representation agreement. Would it be wrong to assume you probably don't know what that is? No, we don't. Would you mind if I, share with you? No, please do. The buyer representation agreement is broken down into 3 main points. 1, it details my fiduciary responsibility to you, which means I put your interest first at all time. 2, it defines our relationship as one of exclusivity and for what period of time. And 3, it details my commission, which I shared with you, which is 3%. And then I'm going to be quiet. And then if they want to ask questions, they ask questions, and I'm going to answer their questions. However, I'm not going to be explaining. And so again, for agents representing a buyer, I set my own fee, not the seller, not the listing agent. And to me, that's a positive.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's talk through some of the potential objections that might come.
Okay.
The first one being that just straight negotiation of, I don't want to pay 3%. And I'm sure I could go interview some other buyer's agents and probably get it done for less. I'd rather work with you. But let's be realistic here. In spite of everything that's happened, I think that's a little aggressive. Would you be willing to go at 2%?
Yeah. So again, everyone's going to hate my answer. You're absolutely right. Other agents do charge less. And in your heart of hearts, if you feel that you can get the same level of service or better, if you feel you can have the same experience or better, if you feel you can get the same outcome or better, working with someone who charges less, then that's exactly what you should do. I'm going to give them an out and see what they do with it.
Reverse psychology here.
100%.
I like it. I like
People
it.
want what they can't have. And, they're all expecting me to push back. I'm going the opposite. Hey, if you think you get a better deal working with someone else, then you should absolutely do that. And what am I demonstrating right there? I'm demonstrating
Confidence.
fearlessness. I'm
Confidence.
demonstrating confidence.
Yeah.
Okay. When I'm willing, remember, in any negotiation, the person who has walkaway power, that's the person who has leverage.
Yeah.
And when I'm willing to walk away from that buyer because they're not going to pay me, remember, if I'm the favorite, part of being the favorite means they pay me my fee. That's part of being the favorite. If they're not willing to pay me my fee, then I'm not the favorite.
Yeah. Now, how about, let's do one more. How about the buyer who says, cool, I'm down for 3%, but if the seller counters and I'm on the hook for 0.5%, 1%, I'm just going to tell you right now, I can't afford that. Are you still willing to work with me?
The short answer is no.
The only answer is no. Okay. And so when you're coaching an agent who maybe they're up and comer, maybe they've been struggling, and they're gonna be like, Steve, dude, like, I need to. You gonna write me a check, Steve? I need to pay my bills. Like, what am I supposed to do here? What are you saying to that agent?
Okay. The root of all evil in real estate is this idea that something is better than nothing. And agents make that deal all the time. And every time they make that deal, something is better than nothing. They're selling a piece of their soul away every time.
Yeah.
Because in real estate, there is never a time when someone's not reaching in your pocket. Never. And not only do they reach into your pocket, they feel entitled to reach into your pocket. And when they reach into your pocket, they're not grateful. There's no thank you. There's no appreciation. Just the other day, true story, agent working in Manhattan. And normally in Manhattan, it's 3 and 3. Manhattan was a 6% market, 3 and 3. On this listing, it was 2.25, 2.25. And someone I'm coaching was representing the buyer. And he was, so he's already working for less than what he's used to. Okay. And they get into the deal and they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They can't come to an agreement. Then the seller's agent comes back and says, look, we've talked directly with everyone. We figured it out. You, the buyer's agent, and the seller's agent, you're both going to give up 0.5%, 1% total. And what do you mean? You don't tell me what I'm going to do. And if you don't give it up, we're going to go to your manager and we're going to tell your manager that you're obstructing this deal. He says, go to my manager. Okay. They go to his manager. They call the owner of his company. Okay. Tell him he's getting in the way of a deal because he's not giving away the commission. So managers are going to hate me. What does the manager say? Give the money up, do the deal. So he ends up giving away at least 0.5%. It may have been more. Then he gets a closing report before it's he gets a breakdown, different states, different things. Mm-hmm. And he sees on this, the other agent hasn't given up anything. Oh. They lied to him, hook, line, and sinker. They made him believe that everyone was giving up. He was the only one. They went to his manager. They went to his owner. Tell me he didn't feel like a fool in that situation. Oof. And the only reason I bring that up, because it's that way every time you're giving your money away.
Yeah.
Look, if you got to finance a deal for a buyer or seller, they shouldn't be doing the deal. They should not be doing the deal. If it's $1 million home, they don't need your $5,000.
Yeah.
That's BS. And so going back to your question, you're starting out this, that, there's always a reason to give your money away. There's always a legitimate reason. And the problem is, and this is what agents don't understand, on any one deal, it doesn't seem like a lot on any one deal. However, if you add it up over the course of a year, and then you add it up over the course of a decade, then you add it up over the course of a career, what you've given away is your retirement. That's what you gave away. And now you have to work longer and harder because in the short term, you gave in.
I would even argue it's probably a relatively, I would say fresh, but also kind of old school at the same time perspective. I know there's going to be a lot of agents, and you said it yourself. You're saying they're going to hate me for this. I think they're going to disagree with it, but I think that's just because it's kind of a soft world that we live in, and it's easy to just, I got to do it, right?
Just roll over.
Yeah.
Roll over all the time.
I mean, but granted, also there's buyers and sellers come in all shapes and sizes, and some humans, as you mentioned, there's $1 million, $5 million deal, and it tends to be that seller or buyer who does beat you up over $5,000, where we all know that $5,000 means nothing to them other than purely ego.
Well, here's a great story. It's in the Full Fee Agent. True story. I get a call one night, 11 p.m., which never happens. Never happens. I got a client. She double-ended a $70 million property. Not bad, right? Not bad, not bad, not bad. They're about to close escrow. And the seller comes back to her and says, look, I want you to kick back 1%. That's $700,000. That's $700,000. She calls me up. What do I say? I say to her, go to her. I'm really sorry. What do you mean you're really sorry? I must have done an awful, awful job. I must have really disappointed you. Now, she knew full well she didn't disappoint that client. She knew double ending a deal like that, she knew she'd done a great job. So she said, I'm really sorry. Pause. I must have done a horrible job. And the seller goes, what do you mean? You did a great job. Well, obviously I didn't, because now you're punishing me $700,000 for the job I did. And that was the end of that discussion. That was the end of that discussion.
I like it. I like it. There's a lot of psychology going on in these conversations.
Hey, that was $700,000, man. That pays for a lot of coaching. Let me tell you.
And the truth is the seller should have had that conversation at the very beginning.
Yeah. But they don't. Okay. Yeah. They don't. And every agent knows this. No one plays fair. Nobody plays fair.
Yeah.
Everyone is self-interested. Everyone is self-absorbed.
Yeah. Wow. Steve, this has been another fantastic conversation. In fact, I looked at the clock and I was thinking to myself, this is probably going to be a shorter episode than the last one. And here we are at an hour, right. Which is telling. I think it's obviously, you're great at this, and you're great at telling these stories. These conversations are very easy and they're very rich. Yeah. Remind our listeners once again how they can get connected and get more of you.
www.performancecoaching.com website. We write 2 weekly blogs, one that I write and one that one of our coaches writes on tactical empathy. Every other week I write a team blog. All that's free. You can sign up for that. We have an event, a live event on December 3rd. You can look that up. Again, www.performancecoaching.com. The books, The Full Fee Agent, Real Estate is Not Rocket Science, The Real Estate Team Playbook. They're on Amazon. And if you have any questions, just email support@performancecoaching.com. We'd love to help you.
I love it. And if you are a social person, as I had to pull it out of him on the last episode, Instagram, Shull Performance Coaching is the name of his Instagram. Steve, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been great having these conversations. I hope we get to stay in touch. And thank you again for sharing with our audience, man. This has been fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me again. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Agents Podcast.